Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. On our channel we talk about all things homesteading and try to implement some of those things on our rural 100 acres here in southern West Virginia. Today I want to do another video about tractors. We've done a couple and you guys have been pretty passionate about it, I should say, but we'll try a new topic here, so let's get on down here in the meadow. Well, there's yet another hot one here at Red Tool House, so if you see me sweating profusely, it's not because I'm working hard shooting a video, it's just because I'm standing outside. Anyway, the topic for today is tractor tires. What is the best tractor tire type for your tractor on your homestead? And obviously I'm no tire expert, so I'm not going to go through all the plies, all the different ratings and blah, blah, blah. But really talk about four main categories of tires when it comes to agricultural tread. And again, now what we're going to be talking about is compact and subcompact tractors, stuff that would be more applicable for homestead. When we talk about big ag, I know nothing about that, but some of this still carries over, but we're going to kind of be camping out in that area. So in talking about tires, we're talking about the tread or the pattern. What type of tread or tread pattern or lug pattern is the best for a homestead tractor? And it's kind of a loaded question. Tires loaded, get it? It's kind of a loaded question, but and everybody's going to have their own bias. But let's actually start and identify all those. If anyone would look up tire classifications and grades and all those things, you actually have a number. There's a number that follows an R. There's R1, 2, 3, and 4, and there may be more for big ag, I'm not sure. But that R number signifies what type of tread pattern you have. So this tractor tire is an R1. So R1 is agricultural, which has this type of tread pattern. It's commonly referred to as an ag tread. And this tread, of course, is a deep lug, so you've got a lot of rubber here above the base of the tire, a lot of gripping power, has a lot of traction in muddy situations, loose soil, all those type of things. So this tread is really handy for that. R2 is actually a much deeper lug. It's still an ag tire, but the lugs are even deeper. It has taller treads, if you will. And my Kubota that I had prior to this, my gray market tractor, which if you want to know about gray market, watch this video here. And jump in on that conversation. That's become quite heated conversation, actually. People get upset about that kind of stuff. Anyway, my gray market tractor had an R2 tire on it, which is kind of like a rice paddy tire. So it had a much, much deeper lug. Now, you talk about traction, that thing would go anywhere. In fact, I could climb more hills than I really should safely, because the traction wouldn't fail as much as the front end wanting to come back over. So that thing would climb a tree, basically. The R3 is what's called a turf tire, and that would be a tread pattern that really isn't aggressive at all. It's much more suited for turf, obviously, hence the name. So it's a smoother tread, and you see those on a lot of lawnmowers. In fact, my little Craftsman lawnmower has what you consider a turf tire. Again, it's just a basic yard machine, nothing real crazy there, but just a basic tread. It's not going to have a lot of traction. It's not going to tear up a lot of ground. R4 is the industrial tread. Some call it wheel loader tread or whatever. But it's kind of a cross. It's a mix match of tread that looks a little bit like an ag tread, but has kind of a tighter lug pattern, has a little bit more traction in the dead center of it. And you see that a lot. A lot of newer tractors are going to that as the default. So which is the best tread pattern, would you say? Well, again, it really depends on what you're doing on your homestead. Where we are with our topography, with our soil type, we have a lot of clay, we have a lot of springs, there's a lot of mud we contend with most of the year. An ag tread really is a no-brainer. That's the direction you want to go. And even my R2, my rice paddy tires on my old Kubota, they were still very effective. So you get a lot of traction out of these tires. So these are the ones I prefer. So what is the downside to an R1 or an R2 tire? Well, obviously the downside is you're going to do a lot of damage if you're making a tight turn or whatever. If I was to make a turn right here in this part of our pasture, It's very dry right now, so the ground's hard as a rock, but I would lift up soil. I would actually, tear up the ground. I'd end up tearing up roots of grass. So if I was doing tight turns, then I'm going to damage that grass. So you can imagine you're never going to see, I don't say never, you never know, but you're most likely not going to see an R1 or an R2 tread on a tractor on a golf course. The guy mowing the green does not have this type of tread pattern on there. He's not going to be doing any tight turns with this type of tread pattern because it would just gut it. I mean, it'd literally just tear it apart. So damage is a downside. Another downside is the ride. Again, I'm not cruising down the road in this thing, so it's not really that big of an issue for me. But some of you guys that transport your tractors to and from, you have to drive from point A to point B. If your homestead spread out, or even in bigger ag, obviously the guys tram their tractors a long distance, and that could be a pretty rough ride because it's just got little bit of material touching the road, and you can get some bumping and going on there. Another downside with this that I've discovered is in the wintertime, if my driveway is iced over, if we've had a snow and there's ice and I have my tractor up there, or if I have it down here, I stay off the driveway because these things become like ice skates. This rubber is super hard, but when it's below freezing, it just gets harder, and it does not have traction to keep you on that driveway. So that asphalt with a little bit of ice on it, pew, go right off the hill. Now, whereas my side-by-side or even my pickup truck, I can tend to have better traction there. So I make sure I don't get in a situation if I'm on a steep slope with a lot of ice that I'm not on my tractor, because that could be a deal as well. And one thing as well too, these have a lot of traction in the forward and reverse position, going forward, going backward. But as a West Virginian, I can speak from experience that driving a tractor like this on a hillside, going on contour, that you can lose traction there because these lugs really don't have a lot of grip this way. In fact, they've got a little bit of an angle to them, but you can get a lot of slide back and forth. And I've helped put up hay on some steep hay pastures before and get into a little bit of a loose area or a soft area, and you just feel that tractor kind of just go sideways, or the rear end pushes around there. So something to consider there when you're on a steep slope. Well, the turf tread is probably one of the most common you see on subcompacts or lawnmowers, and it is, as the name implies, it's made for turf. It is not going to tear up the ground. That's why if you see any riding lawnmowers or any of those type of machines that are made for cutting grass, even some of the subcompacts that are more rated for grass cutting, they're usually not going to have an ag tread on them because they are intending you to be making tight radius turns inside a yard and not expecting to tear that up. So it's really easy to run through the grass and mow and not tear up your ground. If you've got a well manicured lawn, then that turf tire is going to make sense. The downside to that, of course, is you lose the ability for traction. My Craftsman lawnmower, again, very small lawnmower, and my heavy frame sitting on it makes that a little top heavy, but there's some places where I can get on just a slightest little incline and the tire starts spinning just because it's wet or maybe just a little bit of mud. Not a lot of traction potential there. You see a lot of people take lawnmowers or small tractors like that have turf tires, and they'll go ahead and invest in some chains. So chains to go around the outside of the tire to give it traction. And that's a pretty good idea. My father runs his lawnmowers with that. He has a lawnmower with a turf tire, and he puts chains on it to give it that extra bite when he needs to. And then of course he can take the chains off if he doesn't want to have that bite, because obviously a chain is going to damage the yard as well. But as he mows some steeper slopes in his backyard, he runs the chains. So a turf tread comes in handy there, and obviously doesn't do a lot of destruction. So the R4 or industrial tread is really become the all-purpose tread, and if I had to choose one again, I would probably go with that simply because it gives you the most flexibility. And supposedly, don't quote me on this because I haven't done studies, just what I've researched online and talked to some tractor guys, is that the industrial tread actually wears a little bit longer than the ag tread. I've had to replace the left front tire on my tractor because it got a hole in the sidewall. But if you were to look at the left tire and the right tire, you would see the wear difference. This tire is much newer than the right side. And those lugs obviously wear out more. Now again, it depends on where you are. If I try not to drive this up and down my asphalt driveway as much as possible, but I do have to get from point A to point B sometimes, so that happens. So that type of driving, gravel road, asphalt road, is going to wear an ag tread quicker than it's going to than if you were driving, say, in the dirt or just in the grass. So the industrial tread really has kind of the best of both worlds. It wears better, doesn't do as much damage in the grass, although you can still tear things up, but it also has very good traction. The only downside that I see, and this is maybe just unique to West Virginia or areas that have red clay, thick clay, is I've seen industrial treads really gum up quickly with mud. So if you're in a real muddy situation, you can get hung up. If you get all of that tire tread encased in mud, then it almost becomes like a drag racing slick. That mud is caked in there. So there's tighter nooks and crannies there, so it allows that clay to pack in quicker and stay in there. Whereas an ag tread, you really have to have some gumbo mud there to stick it in there and to get stuck inside the lugs and make you lose traction. My brother's Branson has the industrial tread on it, and there's times he's been stuck where I know I definitely wouldn't have gotten stuck with my ag tread. One thing I feel it's worth pointing out is if you're in the market for a tractor or your tractor is due for a new set of shoes, do you look at putting the same tread on all 4 tires, or do you mix and match, mix it up a little bit? Well, obviously I wouldn't mix and match and say the right rear is going to be one lug pattern and the left rear is going to be another. That obviously would not work. But you'll see that some tractors have an ag tread on the back and maybe not any tread pattern. Maybe they've just got a ribbed tire on the front. And you usually see that on 2-wheel drive tractors. It's not all the time, but probably 90% of the time, 2-wheel drive tractors. Because obviously this is the tire that's on a 2-wheel drive tractor. This is the tire that's putting force on the ground, that's actually providing motion for the tractor. That's the drive tires. So that's where the traction needs to happen. The rib tires are usually less expensive, and there's some benefits for those. Obviously my tractor is a full-time 4-wheel drive tractor, so it is always in 4-wheel drive. So it just makes sense to have an ag tread on all 4 tires. I could go to a rib tire and it would be a little cheaper, but I'd really lose the effectiveness of the traction in 4-wheel drive. Again, there's times where I get this in a spot where not only do I need 4-wheel drive, but I've got to lock the differential because I'm stuck and I'm spinning, or I need to get up a hill. So having all 4 tires have the ability to bite and grip are very important. And also with the front bucket, and we'll talk about this at some other time when we talk about 4-wheel drive tractors, but with the front bucket, if I've got a load on that bucket that's making the rear end light, making the nose heavy, then as far as moving back and forth with a loaded bucket, the front tires having traction, sometimes this is where all the traction happens. This is where the actual force is being exerted. And I've even had loads in my bucket where my back tires are barely touching the ground. So you don't want to get in that situation where you've got a bucket load and you get on a little bit of a slope and the rear end gets light and then you're stuck in the water if you've got 2-wheel drive, or if you've got a slick tread on front and it may just spin if you're just doing a rib. So for 4-wheel drives, I would use the same tread pattern on all 4 tires. 2-wheel drives, you can get away with just dealing with the back tires and maybe just sticking with ribbed on the front to save a little money there. Well, that is a very oversimplified discussion about tractor tires. And again, from the perspective of a homesteader who's going to be dealing with a compact or a subcompact tractor, then you really don't have to get too complicated with this. So if you're in the market for a tractor and you're going to buy a used tractor, let's say, you really look at the tires, and because they can be really expensive. These back tires can be quite pricey if you're going to replace them. So look and say, okay, does this have the tread pattern that I want on it? If you find a really nice 4-wheel drive tractor and it's covered in turf tires because maybe it was a golf course tractor or whatever, you may have to look and say, well, I'm going to buy this tractor, but most likely I'm going to have to invest maybe another $1,000 into upgrading the tires. But if you're buying a brand new tractor, talk with the dealer wherever you're buying it and say, hey, what are my options on swapping out the treads? You may discover that, okay, this tractor comes with an industrial tread because that's becoming the more common. You say, hey, what would you charge me to go to an ag tread? Maybe the ag tread's actually a little cheaper. It's like, oh, we can get you an ag tread and we'll knock $100 off. Yeah, most dealers aren't going to do that. They're not that nice. But it may be that it's more, or maybe it's just the same. It's a pass-through, okay? You tell us what you want, we'll put it on there, and we'll swap them out. So take that opportunity when you're buying a new tractor to look at what type of tread you want. But again, just apply it to what you're going to be doing. If you're going to be doing a lot of groundwork, where you're going to be moving a lot of dirt or plowing, gardening, those type of things, or you're like me, you you try to homestead on the side of a hill and you've got mud and issues to deal with all the time, then you're going to need something with a lot of traction. Well, we hope you like this video, and before you hit the close button and go away, I just want to say real quick, we have our first Red Toolhouse t-shirt available on Amazon now. So if you would like to support our channel, again, I'm not asking for money, I'm not asking for free handouts, but if you'd like to support our channel, the sale of our t-shirt obviously helps support equipment, storage space, all that type of stuff. So check out the link below, and you can buy our Red Toolhouse shirt with our traditional Red Toolhouse logo on it, and you can get it through Amazon. So the benefits of purchasing off Amazon versus having to come through our website. So check that out. And if you are so inclined to purchase one of our t-shirts and you want to take a picture of yourself, a selfie, wearing our t-shirt, send it to me. Use the contact form on redtoolhouse.com. Send it to me with some information there. I'll give a shout out. We'll make sure to include that in upcoming videos. So again, check out our merch store on Amazon. There'll be a link in the video description, and if you send me a picture wearing one of our t-shirts, I'll be sure to share it on an upcoming video. Well, subscribe if you haven't, and check us out on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Red Toolhouse Farm. Take care, everybody.